You probably think that people leave your company or your business because of pay or perks, or maybe that other offer down the street. But here's the truth. Most people will decide whether they're staying or leaving within their first 90 days. Not based on their salary, but how they feel. Day one's going to set the tone. Week one is going to build that belief. And then month one, that's going to decide their future. And yet most of us out there treat onboarding like it's just another one of our checklists instead of our championship moment. So today, I'm going to show you how to turn those first 90 days into a foundation of loyalty so your great hires are going to want to stay, they want to grow, and they're going to want to lead inside of your business. So let's dive into the content for today. In this content today, listen till the end. I'm going to give you my 30 and 90 day onboarding strategy. So you're going to want to make sure that you listen to the entirety of this episode because it is fire, right? And if you don't know where you're at, this is the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast, and I'm your host, John Espinosa. I help businesses hire and retain their top talent so you can get on to building that strategy and growing your businesses. So today, 3 topics. As always, we're going to focus on your first 90 days and helping your employees decide they made the right choice. So the first topic of the podcast, the episode, is going to be building belonging before we just build that badge. And when we hire employees, when we bring somebody onto the team, it starts way beyond or before day one. And a lot of times, this is something that when I was first leading, when I started my business, it was an oversight. It was an oversight on my part. I was busy. I'm in the tactical environment, the day-to-day, and I may use a hiring company, or I may have a job posting out there. Maybe somebody else interviews, hires. We vet them. They go through all the process. Now they're onboarded. Well, day one is here, and it may be a day where I'm slammed. And so instead of them hearing from me, guess what? I just choose somebody randomly in the office and have them onboard them. That's the wrong thing to do. And I'm going to tell you why. One thing, our new employees, they start their emotional contract way before day one, way before they walk in the door. They're already building up maybe this belief about how they are going to help your business, or how they're going to grow inside your business, or really they may just be nervous starting out. It may be them coming into another professional environment. It may be their first job out of college. Whatever the circumstance is, each one of those scenarios, they're different. And as business owners and as leaders of our organizations, we have to handle those differently. Onboarding isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy. And we're going to talk about how we're going to customize that in the 30 and the 90-day strategic hiring plan. But for now, what I want to do is I want to build that sense of belonging, or help you build that sense of belonging with your new hires even before they step foot in the door. One of the things that I wrote down this morning is I was just fleshing out, okay, John, what are some of the things that business owners, what are some of the things that leaders struggle with? And one of the things that we tend to do is pair people together, pair our new hires in with a very seasoned or high-performing employee. And I agree that that works, but that shouldn't happen day one. And here's why. Our high performers, they got a lot on their plate. They're very busy. And if they're in the middle of a project, or they're in the middle of maybe closing something out or starting something, guess what? Now what you've done is you've just created another thing that they have to do. And it's not fair for the employee, the new employee, or the top talent employee. So what do we want to do? We want to pair them with somebody that we would consider a work buddy. You could even call them a mentor, however you like that. But what this person is going to do is they are going to initiate them into the culture of the organization. There may be somebody who isn't even your top performer, but knows a lot about your company and is excited about working there. Now, try this on for size, because I've seen this work 2 or 3 different ways. One, you pair them with maybe somebody who's not very busy, and that not very busy person may not have the best outlook for the company, may not be the most energetic. Have we all been there? I've been there. I know, because you just randomly pick somebody, or better yet, you don't know when they're coming in. They show up and you just randomly go and assign them to somebody that doesn't have anything to do. Well, if that person doesn't have anything to do, the last thing that you're going to want to do is assign them to a new employee to initiate them into your culture. So find somebody that is good at that. We have people in our office that are good at talking to people, showing them around, talking up the business, getting them excited about what they're getting ready to get into. Are you following me here? It's very important that we identify these things prior to day one. We have to figure that out in order to set this first 90 days up for success, okay? So their first impression is going to shape the way that they see themselves within the company. Not just the company themselves, but how they see themselves. And consider this, even if they don't work out, even if that new employee comes in, they last maybe a year, maybe 2 years, right? We've done everything we possibly can, but it's just not the right fit. We have to acknowledge that in some instances. But guess what? We have initiated them into the best onboarding process, and they're going to go tell somebody. I promise they are going to go tell a colleague, maybe at their new company or their new business. They're going to tell family. They're going to tell friends, especially for your local business owners. It is going to help you. They're going to say, man, that onboarding process, it was awesome. If you're looking for a job, I recommend John's company. I recommend such and such company. Those are the things. Word of mouth is more powerful than we think. So again, the first impression starts before day one. So welcome blueprint. That's our application for this topic that we're going to talk about today. Remember, building belonging before we build the badge. So welcome blueprint. I love handwritten notes. I always send a handwritten note or a welcome video. This is very simple. An example of this is my pharmacist. I've never met my pharmacist. Today, I got a call. It was my wife's birthday. And it was just a recorded message, but that's kind of cool, right? I mean, I've never met my pharmacist before, and he's calling to wish my wife a happy birthday. Now, why they're calling my phone? Because I'm the primary number on the call, but you may be asking yourself. But here's the key. Here's where I'm getting at. Even a recorded message prior to them showing up is going to set that foundation of, hey, John took the time to record a message. Could be a video message. If it's personalized, that's even better. Or a handwritten note. Hey, welcome to the team. I'm excited about you joining the team. I'm excited about you becoming the best culture, the best, business, marketing company, sales company, whatever that is. Set that expectation right up front before day one. Get them excited. Help reduce some of that anxiety. Help, reduce some of those nerves. They're joining a new team, whatever that looks like, right? I mean, remember, I always try to put myself in a new employee's shoes to remember what it was like when I was coming on into a company, hiring on whatever that, company may be, but it's a new environment. We spend more time at work than we do at home in most instances. So it's pretty important that we get it right before day one. And there's a cost associated to onboarding. So we want to make sure that we get it right, especially for those small business owners. So welcome blueprint. Let's get back to that. A video or a written note. So that's one of the things that I would include in your welcome blueprint. The other thing, when they do come on board, as soon as you possibly can, set up a welcome meeting. Set up a 10 to 15 minute with the business owner, with the leader, senior as you can possibly get, to allow them just to hear. And it's not an interview. It's not like the second interview. What that needs to be is an established rapport. We're excited you're here. These are some of the exciting things that we're doing. This is the direction that we're going. Give them that vision. Cast that vision for them. This is how I see new employees becoming a part of that vision. Define the growth opportunities within your organization. All of those things. Get it done. 10 to 15 minutes is not a lot of time. We can all make 10 to 15 minutes in our schedule to introduce ourselves and to greet our new hires or our new employees. And then last, during that 10 to 15 minutes, it's important for us to identify, to communicate what success looks like. What do successful employees, how do they perform? How do they act? What do they do? All of those things are going to help. Let them know. If you're in a high stress, high stakes environment, tell them, don't sugarcoat anything, because when the stakes get high, they're going to be like, man, I wasn't ready for this. Instead, don't scare them off. I'm not asking you to, look left, look right, like the old medical school metaphor. Only one of you are going to be here. That's not what I'm saying. But don't sugarcoat it. If you expect them to be able to work in a high stress or high performance environment, let them know, because I promise you, that's one of the reasons why they applied for your job. Maybe they're an adrenaline junkie. Maybe they enjoy that. Maybe, that's where they meet their peak performance. So let them know what success looks like. That's going to be your welcome blueprint. Okay. Now let's get into this 30-day success map. And one of the things here, so once they feel that they belong, now we got to establish clarity. Now we got to make sure that they understand their role and responsibility within our companies. So the title here for this topic is Give Clarity, Not Chaos. And one of the things, very first bullet, I wanted to make sure to get across to everybody is we have to reduce uncertainty within the first 30 days. When people feel as if they're in a chaotic environment, they're not going to stay. It doesn't matter how big the organization is. It doesn't matter how small. It doesn't matter how successful. It doesn't matter what their salary is. I get tired of business owners and leaders saying, well, salary will fix it. We'll just give them an increase, give them a little boost. Perks. The culture is changing out there. People in their first 30 days, they are going to make a make or break decision. Either they may stay for that 90 days, but they're going to start looking after 30 days, or you're going to get a lifer. You're going to get somebody there that has ownership in the business and that understands where your business or your team is heading. So reduce uncertainty within the first 90 days. That number one key. The second one, new employees, when they feel like they're lost, again, this goes back to uncertainty, they're not going to perform as well. If flight or fight response, that's our initial response. And if we're stuck in, do I go? Do I stay? Do you really want an employee in that gray zone? I know I don't want them in that gray zone. I want them to understand that we want them here. We hired them. We went through a whole bunch of paperwork and processes to get them on board. Now they're here day one. Let's make sure that we clarify and reduce any uncertainty within that first 30 days. And how we're going to do that? We're going to outline their responsibilities. So we're going to outline what short-term wins look like, and we're going to identify those growth milestones. So here's what you've been waiting for. Here's our first 30-day onboarding strategy, or map, as I call it. Week one is going to focus on them learning the culture and learning the mission. I want them to be crystal clear on what the organization, what your team or what your company, what their mission is. Again, doesn't have to be long. We have other episodes on mission, so I'm not going to get real deep into here. But our mission needs to be our day-to-day. Our vision is our North Star. They need to understand both of those. That's week one. That's the focus of week one. So remember, I mentioned putting them with the work buddy, pairing them with the work buddy, understanding that culture, kind of understanding how the processes and systems work. What's the office environment look like? If it's a virtual employee, what are the tools that you're going to use to communicate? How do you use those? Where are we going? Where are you at now in the calendar year? And what's next? That's going to let them know and get their feet underneath them. Because again, if they're in that flight or fight response, they can't think past that. We need them to start being able to move up the ladder there in order for them to settle in and really get going, especially in those first 30 days. That's the first week. The second week, I want you to execute small, visible wins. So as small as, hey, you got added to the group calendar, or you got on the Teams, or you got on the Slack or instant messages, do a short, brief introduction, right? Or if they're a hard charger, if they're a high performer, maybe they already created a report. Maybe they already made the first sale. Maybe they already, got their hands wet and they're in the manufacturing area. I don't know what that looks like for your organization, but week 2 is you are going to make sure that you're going to execute those visible small wins. Allow them to get that momentum, right? That's what we're creating here. Week 3, I want them to shadow and collaborate with one of your high performers. Remember, I said don't do this in the first day. Don't pair them up with a high performer. Now, they're into week 3. They've gotten their feet underneath them. They understand a little bit. They know what questions to ask. Because when I pair them with the high performer in my business or my organization, I want them to be able to ask intelligent questions. I want them to be able to say, hey, yeah, I saw that. How does it apply? And then my high performer work them through that. Because again, they're high performing for a reason. They understand things. So things that they're going to just do intuitively, the new employee needs help understanding to get there. So you're going to give them almost, hey, this is where I want you to be. Set that expectation. Find somebody that is performing at a very high level within your company, so that way that new employee understands what you want. As a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, whatever that looks like, you got to model, you got to have them understand what high performance looks like within your organization. So that's week 3. You're going to shadow or collaborate, right? If they're peers, it's going to be more of a collaboration. If maybe it's an understudy or somebody that's going to be working a couple levels below, then it'll be more of a shadow opportunity. So that's week 3. Week 4. So this is your week 4. This is the very last week. Now I want you to go back and reflect with that employee on what's working. Okay, tell me a little bit about the mission and vision. How do you see yourself fitting in? What were those growth opportunities? Do you still see them the same way? Week 2, those small wins. Tell me a little bit about how you've won this week. What did that feel like? Where else do you want to win? Where else can I help you grow? The shadow and collaborate opportunity. What did you learn? What were some of the things you noticed? Do you have any more questions? Do you see yourself doing something similarly, right? How do we close that gap? Where are those blind spots? That's a great opportunity for you to begin to map out the next 60 days of the 90 days. Remember, we're still within that 30 days. So week 4 is all going to be about reflection. Okay, so week 1 through 4, that's my 30-day success roadmap onto onboarding. Use this. I've used it time and time again to onboard employees, to coach business owners, to help others, consult with companies on developing an onboarding strategy. 30 days, that's going to maximize them to roll into the next 90 days. Okay, so we've built clarity. We've given them that belonging. Now what we want to do is we want to grow or build that momentum. And we're going to do that through this third topic. And the third topic, what I've labeled it as, we're going to turn those early wins into lasting loyalty. All right. And the way we're going to do that, when people feel like they're recognized, when they feel as if we trust them in a very early stage of our relationship, that is going to fuel their motivation. And that motivation only is going to last a couple weeks, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to continue reinforcing their behaviors, giving them those early wins, making sure that we do some feedback. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, and build that in to our process between 30 and 90 days. That's going to be where they're going to really figure out is in you as a business owner or you as the leader, you're going to also get that opportunity to say, okay, can they do what we really want them to do? Here's where the rubber meets the road. All right. Those 30 to 90 days is going to give you an opportunity to open up the hood, look under, see what's going on, make sure everything's running as it should, tweak a little bit, maybe have to send it to the shop, maybe have to, refine some things. But for the most part, at the end of those 90 days, you're going to have a good idea on whether this individual is going to work out for you, for your business, or for your company. So the other thing here, and I wrote down, and I talked earlier about it, is your feedback rhythms. What does feedback look like within those, again, 30? We've already talked about what the 90-day or what the first 30 days are going to look like, weeks 1 through week 4. So from now, 30 days, we're talking to 90 days. What's that feedback rhythm going to look like? For me, my feedback rhythms look like team meetings and look like weekly one-on-ones. And then any type of 10-minute, 15-minute stand-up that we have on a Monday or a Friday or a stand-down, whatever that you want to call that, those are my check-ins. Those are my feedback loops. Those are the opportunities for not just individuals to bring me feedback, but the team to bring me feedback and everybody to hear it, right? Because a lot of times when somebody speaks up, they're like, oh yeah, I also have that problem. That's also something that I see as a choke point or a weak point or something we need to improve in a process, okay? So establish those feedback rhythms, create those. And then this last one, and I'm in the world of training, so I get it. But when we send new employees to training for the first 90, I've even seen some organizations send them for the first 6 weeks or 6 months, and they never get to understand or even meet the people that they're working with. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's good business practice. That is not an onboarding strategy that I'm going to own, and it's not an onboarding strategy that if I were in, I don't know if I would stay. So one of the things, don't just train them. We want to start empowering them by giving them autonomy, allowing them to make decisions, allowing them to do things not as we would do them, but making sure they have those guardrails, making sure they have those expectations, they have a process. Now they need to go out and perform, because in those 90 days, if you don't give them trust, if you don't provide them autonomy to go do their job, how can you ever evaluate whether they're the right fit for your organization or not? That's something that we need to understand as business owners and as leaders. We're evaluating fit for our companies and our organizations. Not everybody that you are going to hire is going to work out. A high percentage, if you follow this format, will, but not everybody is. For some reason or another. It's just the fact. It's just how the business is. So we have to be prepared after those 90 days to make a decision. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to give them every opportunity within that 90 days to show us what they're made of, to show us why we hired them in the first place, and give them the tools. Provide them that growth, give them that vision to understand, okay, here you have a place to grow. So let's talk about our 90-day retention strategy, because this right here, even you can call it a 90-day rhythm. We've talked a lot about that, what that first 4 weeks looks like, the 30 days. So now what does the whole entire 90 days look like? Well, throughout that 90 days, we are going to celebrate wins. And you may be at, John, why are you continuing to, talk about celebrating the wins? They have to understand what winning culture looks like. As business owners, we don't set that. We don't help people understand what winning culture looks like, because we're always providing constructive feedback, right? That's what we call it. We only talk to people when they do something bad. We only bring them in the office when something has to be a corrective action. Instead, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of psychology on this. Now, even in my one-on-one coaching, I focus on strengths. I build up the strengths to the point where the weaknesses, they just fall off. I don't try to improve the weaknesses unless they're really, really bad, but I don't know too many people out there that get coaching that have really, really bad weaknesses. Most of them have one or two really good strengths that we're going to hyper-focus on. That's why you celebrate the wins. Build them up. Create that motivation that's going to turn into lasting momentum by celebrating those wins within those first 90 days. Don't wait until the official performance review comes up, or if you're 6 months away from the end of year, the bonuses, don't wait to get there to have a performance discussion. That performance discussion needs to start, the employee needs to understand what winning looks like, and then they need to be reinforced, okay? So first 90-day rhythm, make sure that you establish those early wins. The second one, I want you to coach forward within those 90 days. We've talked a lot about these practical strategies. When we focus on the past, employees are always, and we do this naturally. As human beings, we pull experiences from the past to new experiences that we're going through. Learning. We always take something that maybe we've learned, and then how is it going to apply forward? That's how we're going to coach forward. I want you, I wrote down this question, what's next for you? Instead of, I like the way that you did that, tell me a little bit about how you worked through that process. Instead, okay, great job. We're going to celebrate that win. What's next for you? What's next? What's the next thing that I can help you grow, right? Or help you get into? What else are you interested in within the business? You may have hired them for one thing, but now they're blossoming into something more. You didn't know that they also had project management background, or they owned their own company at one time. So it gives you a little bit of what is the next thing for you. And then the last one that I wrote down is we have to commit to a growth plan. And I say we, you, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the leader, and the employee need to commit to a growth plan. What's the next 6 months going to look like after the 90 days? So once you've decided that they're a great fit, they're performing as expected, what's the next 6 months look like? It's going to keep them looking forward. We're always going to want to push them forward, coaching forward, remember, and make sure that they understand that there will always be a next. There will always be another hill to climb. There will always be another customer challenge. There will always be another manufacturing issue. There will always be another decrease in the economy or downward slide. Whatever that looks like, there will always be a next. So we want to keep that momentum always leaning. I say lean forward. Lean forward because if we're leaning forward, that's where our motivation and our momentum is going. So coach forward. What is next? What can I help? Identify that 6-month growth strategy. People will grow. They will rise to your expectation. Don't lower your expectations because people, they'll fall back. They will revert back to what's comfortable. And if those expectations fall, that's what's going to be comfortable. So challenge, keep looking forward. All right. One thing that, I hope you've got out of this podcast is the importance of onboarding before day one. Before they walk in the door, it's important to make that connection, ensure that belonging. And then I wrote down here a challenge for you. And I want you, I went through my 30-day, what my 90-day strategy looks like, my 30-day really action plan that I do in week 1 through week 4. Then my 90-day strategy. What does your 90 days looks like? That's the challenge. Go back and audit. Do you have some of these elements? I'm not saying you have to exactly copy it, but you can. This is free information. So what does your first 90 days look like? Is it building loyalty or are you losing it? Are you building regret that they took the job or they left another job to work for you? Because a lot of times that's what people do. They come work for us, with us, and they've left something behind. That's why we want to keep them working forward. So stay tuned in to this season. We're going to have a lot more on not just hiring, not just retention, but how we can build high performance teams. I believe in you. Talk to you on the next episode. Go be great.